Hi again, everybody. This is the Bricks and Bleachers podcast. All things Chicago Cubs in under 10 minutes. One quarter of the season is complete, and the Cubs have had a fantastic start. We'll talk about that. We've got some injury news, meaning a top prospect is heading to Wrigley, plus news and notes from around the league, and so much more. Cubs come into play on Tuesday with a 24-18 record, one-game lead in the National League Central over the St. Louis Cardinals. Cubs made it through the month of April with a winning record, which really no one expected. Cubs schedule in April, the toughest that any team will face in all of 2025. So just getting through the month of April, close to 500, would have been viewed as a win. They finished 5 games over 500. And aside from back-to-back series last week with the Giants and Mets, schedule for the month of May looks pretty easy. And really, that's the case for much of the rest of the year. Cubs won last night's series opener with the Marlins 5-2 at Wrigley Field. Cubs put up 5 runs in the 5th. Colin Ray pitched into the 7th inning. Daniel Palencia with another solid relief outing, and Drew Pomerantz with the save, his first save of the year. He's been an interesting story as the Cubs signed him in the offseason after a 3-year break from the majors. Nice to see him having some success early on. 8 appearances, no earned runs. After the game, some interesting news from Craig Counsell, who announced that Ian Happ will go to the injured list. He's missed the Cubs' last 3 games with an oblique injury. Happened during Friday's game. He finished that game but has not played since. Slow improvement, but the Cubs will move Happ to the IL for the next week or so. And that means we will get to see Moises Ballesteros. Coming into the season, Ballesteros was one of the 2 Cubs prospects I was most excited to see at Wrigley Field. He's a catcher and designated hitter. I believe he's spent a little bit of time playing first base as well. I figured either Miguel Amaya would struggle or Ballesteros would tear it up in Iowa and play his way ahead of off-season signing Carson Kelly. However, as this season has played out, that's not been the case at all. The Cubs catchers have been so good, greatly overperforming. Kelly and Amaya combining for 2.4 WAR, according to Baseball Reference. Carson Kelly, I'd argue, is one of the top stories in all of Major League Baseball so far of this spring. He's got an OPS of over 1,100, 8 home runs. So Ballesteros reportedly getting called up tonight. Cubs will be carrying 3 catchers as a result. Ballesteros not currently on the Cubs 40-man roster, so there will have to be a corresponding roster move. Now, that could come one of a couple different ways. Could be a DFA, could be an injury reassignment, someone moving to the 60-day IL. But at last check, I'm not sure who that would be, because Tyson Miller and Ryan Brazier are both rehabbing, working their way back to return from injuries. And Shota Imanaga, currently on the IL with a strained hamstring, he was throwing at Wrigley Field before last night's game. So I'd say the better shot of opening up a roster spot is going to come in the form of a DFA. The Cubs bench this year has been pretty meh. John Berti, the most productive in a handful of starts at third base, but still not sensational. Justin Turner has been an outstanding disappointment. Vidal Brujan and Nicky Lopez haven't proven much in their appearances either. I see Ballesteros being used as a designated hitter, perhaps an occasional day behind the plate, maybe a backup for Michael Busch at first base. There's usually a learning curve in making the jump from AAA to the majors, so I'm not going to expect him to continue to put up amazing numbers in Chicago that he's done so far in Iowa, but he's been pretty good this year at the AAA level, an average of 368 and an OPS almost 950. I mentioned Moises Ballesteros being one of 2 prospects I was most excited to see this year, Cade Horton being the other, and he made his Cubs debut Saturday night against the New York Mets. 4 innings, 5 strikeouts, no walks, 4 hits given up, really just one mistake, and that was a pitch that ended up being a 3-run home run. Brad Keller made the start on Saturday night, and then Horton came in the 2nd inning. He pitched 4 innings. He picked up the win. I am assuming Cade Horton will line up as a starter this weekend against the White Sox. Colin Ray has been masterful picking up the slack and pace of Justin Steele in the Cubs rotation. Horton hopefully will get a start or two while the Cubs wait for Shota Imanaga to return. Time for our This and That segment. News and notes from around Major League Baseball. Hottest team in the majors at the moment is in the National League Central, the St. Louis Cardinals. They've won 9 games in a row. That's one reason why they are just 1 game back of the Cubs, who have had their own nice start. Cubs and Cards' first meeting of the season will come in St. Louis in late June. Tarek Skubal will get the start tomorrow night for Detroit. Skubal with an amazing stretch. I mean, this is uncanny. First pitcher in MLB history with more than 40 strikeouts in a 6-start stretch without allowing more than 4 total runs and without walking more than 1 batter. In fact, he's not just got more than 40 strikeouts, he's actually got 50 strikeouts during that stretch. A lot of talk about the National League West being the most dominant division in the majors, and I'd say that's true. 4 teams with a winning record. They all look really good. And then there's the Colorado Rockies with just 7 wins through 41 games, one of the worst starts in modern Major League history. Interesting headline from minor league baseball over the weekend. This past weekend, featuring a couple former members of the Cubs organization, Eloy Jimenez with a walk-off single Saturday night against Craig Kimbrell in AAA action as Durham defeated Gwinnett. Pretty sure you didn't expect either of those guys to be playing in AAA in 2025. Cubs and Marlins continue their series at Wrigley Field tonight. It's the second of a 3-game set. Valente Belloso and Ben Brown, the starting pitching matchup tonight. Belloso making his 5th start of the year for the Fish. Expect the Cubs to get to the Marlins bullpen fairly early, as he's not been successful in going deep into games. He's completed 5 innings just once in his 4 appearances, 0-2 record. For the Cubs, Ben Brown enters the game at 3-3. His last 2 starts have probably been his best appearances of the year. 6 scoreless innings against the Brewers and then 5 innings against the Giants his last time out. Tomorrow night, the matchup is not a bad one. Ryan Weathers with his season debut for the Marlins against Jamison Tyone for the Cubs, who enters the game with a 2-2 record. First pitch at 7:40 Eastern, both tonight and tomorrow. Almost out of time for this episode. 3 things to watch. Moises Ballesteros getting called up tonight. I don't know if he's going to be in the starting lineup tonight, but I'm sure he will be making an appearance. What to make of the third base situation? Matt Shaw started the year as the Cubs' third baseman. He struggled greatly to begin the season. He got booted back to AAA Iowa, where he's done well. When will he get another shot in the majors? And what to do about Ryan Presley, the guy who was supposed to be the Cubs' closer. He struggled early in the year, then had several solid appearances. And then what happened last week? A shocking 8-run appearance in extra innings against the Giants last week. Follow us anytime on X, Bricks Bleachers, and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. That way you never miss an episode. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and more. All things Chicago Cubs in under 10 minutes. This is the Bricks and Bleachers podcast.